I want you to think about the last time you had to sign a contract. Maybe for a mortgage, a car lease, or, even just the terms and conditions for an app.
Right.
Did you feel like the person on the other side was your partner? Or did you feel like they were handing you a defensive weapon, just waiting for something to go wrong?
For most people, it's definitely the latter.
Yeah.
Traditional contracts are they're defensive structures.
Mm.
They're written by lawyers who just assume the relationship is going to fail.
They're trenches.
Exactly. You dig your hole, I dig mine, and the contract is the barbed wire running down the middle.
It's adversarial by design. It's a gotcha culture. But today, we're looking at a document that claims to be the complete opposite. A text that is, well, arguably the biggest shift in the construction industry in decades. We're doing a deep dive into the NEC4 engineering and construction contract.
Specifically the June 2017 edition, with amendments up to October 2020. And you're right, this thing isn't just a legal shield. The authors explicitly designed it to be a project management manual.
That's the claim, anyway. But here's the thing, and this is why we're doing this. The construction industry is notorious for going over budget and over time.
Yeah.
We've all seen the headlines.
Oh, yeah. Infrastructure projects costing billions more, opening years late.
So big players like the UK Government Construction Board and the Development Bureau in Hong Kong are basically betting the farm on this specific contract to fix all that.
They are. They're betting that if you change the rules of the document, you can actually change the behavior of the people using it.
Which sounds, I have to say, incredibly optimistic. Can a piece of paper actually legislate trust? Or is mutual trust just a nice phrase lawyers put in before the lawsuits begin?
That's the central question, isn't it? Can you legislate collaboration? And to answer that, we have to look at the machinery of the NEC4. It's just not built like a normal contract.
Let's start with what feels like the soul of this machine. When I was reading the source material, I got stuck on Clause 10 almost immediately. Usually the first few clauses are just definitions. The client is this, the contractor is that. But Clause 10, it feels almost emotional.
It definitely stands out. Clause 10.1 is the standard stuff. Everyone has to act as stated. But then you get to Clause 10.2. It says, the parties, the project manager, and the supervisor act in a spirit of mutual trust and cooperation.
Mutual trust and cooperation.
Yeah.
In a legal document, that just sounds so vague to me. I mean, if I'm a contractor and I'm just grumpy one day, am I in breach?
It sounds vague, but courts have actually started to give this teeth. It isn't just a vibe. It places your behavior on the same legal footing as, say, pouring the concrete correctly.
So if you, as the project manager, hold on to information that could help me, the contractor, you're not just being difficult.
You're technically violating Clause 10.2. It's an attempt to kill that gotcha culture.
So under a traditional contract, if I see you making a mistake, I might just let you do it and then sue you later.
Right. But under NEC4, if I see you making a mistake and I don't say anything, I am failing in my duty of mutual trust. I actually become liable because I stayed silent.
That's a huge shift. But to understand who's doing all this trusting, we need to map out the players. NEC4 splits the boss role into two people, which I found really interesting.
Yes, the project manager and the supervisor. This is crucial to grasp.
Why split them?
Well, in many traditional contracts, the engineer or the architect does everything. They design it, check the quality, handle the money. It's a conflict of interest just waiting to happen.
Because if I designed it, I'm probably not going to be my own harshest critic when I inspect it.
Exactly. Or if I'm worried about the budget, I might be tempted to accept shoddy work just to keep things moving. So NEC4 separates them. The project manager is the executive. They manage time, cost, the contract itself.
The business side.
Right. And the supervisor is the quality police. They're independent. Their only job is to check that the physical thing being built matches the scope. They don't care about the budget. They care about the bricks.
Okay, so you have these players who are supposed to play nice. But construction is messy. It rains, steel prices go up, plans change. What happens when reality punches the project in the face?
This is where we move from the soul to the nervous system of the contract. Clause 15, the early warning mechanism.
This is the part of the text that felt the most counterintuitive to just basic human nature.
How so?
Well, imagine I'm a contractor. I realize I've messed up a measurement or my supplier is going to be 3 weeks late. My survival instinct is to hide it.
Of course.
I'll try to fix it quietly or wait for a good excuse. I definitely don't want to run to the client and say, hey, we have a problem.
And that's the wait and see approach. In construction, wait and see almost always becomes wait and get sued. Small problems become disasters if you ignore them.
So Clause 15 tries to short-circuit that instinct.
It does. It places an obligation on both the contractor and the project manager to give an early warning as soon as they become aware of any matter that could cause trouble.
And trouble is defined pretty broadly, isn't it?
Very. Anything that could increase the price, delay completion, or, and this is a big one, impair the performance of the works. So if you realize the air conditioning unit won't cool the building properly, even if it's installed perfectly, you have to flag it.
So I raise my hand, I send an early warning. Now, in a normal job, that's when the shouting starts. Whose fault is this?
Who's paying for it? Right, but not here. Clause 15 explicitly forbids the blame game at this stage. Once a warning is raised, it goes into the early warning register.
A register, not a list of screw-ups.
Exactly, it's a risk register. Then, under Clause 15.3, you have to hold an early warning meeting, and the agenda for that meeting is strictly regulated.
It says you have to seek solutions that bring advantage to all affected.
Advantage to all. That's a very deliberate choice of words. It forces everyone to sit on the same side of the table and look at the problem as a shared enemy. You figure out how to fix it first. You can argue about who pays for it later.
It creates a safe space for bad news.
It makes shouting about a problem a virtuous act. If you hide it, you're in breach. If you reveal it, you're doing your job.
Okay, so we're sharing risks, but you still need a plan, a schedule.
Yeah.
And in my experience, the schedule, the Gantt chart on the wall, is usually a work of fiction.
It's dated the moment you print it. That's a traditional failure. The NEC4 tries to change that with Clause 31. It treats the program, that's the term they use, as the absolute heartbeat of the project.
And the level of detail it requires is, it's intense.
Oh, yeah. It's a full operational simulation. You have to show the order of operations, health and safety, and you have to show float.
Float is the wiggle room, right? The spare time.
Exactly. And you also need time risk allowances. You have to explicitly say, I think this might take an extra day because of rain, and build that into the plan. It forces you to quantify your risks.
But the part that really got me was the requirement to list the dates when the contractor needs things from the client.
That's vital. It holds the client accountable. If the program says, I need the designs approved by March 1st, and the project manager accepts it, the client is now on the hook. They can't just turn around later and cause a delay.
And speaking of accepting the plan, there's a mechanism in here that I think every freelancer listening will wish they had. The silence is consent rule.
Yes. The deemed acceptance. This is the anti-bureaucracy weapon.
Walk us through it, because usually if I send a document to my boss for approval and they just don't reply, I'm stuck.
Right. But under NEC4 Clause 31.3, the project manager has 2 weeks to accept the program or reject it with valid reasons. If they just ghost you, the contractor can send a notification.
You haven't replied.
And if they still ignore you for another week after that, the program is treated as accepted.
It becomes the new reality.
It becomes the binding document. A client can't stall a project by just ignoring the paperwork. It forces momentum. And this isn't a one-time thing. The program has to be revised regularly to show actual progress versus planned progress.
The truth machine. You can't hide a delay.
Exactly. It's all about transparency.
Let's shift gears to when things are actually wrong. We mentioned the supervisor, the quality police, finds defects.
Capital D defects, work that doesn't match the scope.
And Clause 43.1 gives them the power to say, tear that wall down, I want to see what's underneath. That sounds expensive.
It is, and it's high stakes. If the supervisor instructs a search and they find nothing, the client pays for the search and the delay. If they do find a defect, the contractor pays. It stops the supervisor being trigger happy.
But then I found Clause 45. And this is where the contract gets really pragmatic. It's called accepting defects.
This is one of the most business-savvy clauses in the entire text.
Because sometimes a mistake isn't catastrophic. Let's say I build a wall 2 inches to the left of where the drawing said it should be. Technically, that's a defect?
Correct. And under a strict contract, the supervisor could demand you smash it down and rebuild it.
Which is just wasteful. It wastes time, materials, money. Clause 45 offers a way out.
It does. It allows the contractor or the project manager to propose a deal. Okay, the wall is in the wrong place. Is it structurally unsafe? No. Okay, let's just change the scope to say this is where the wall is supposed to be.
But the contractor doesn't just get away with it, right?
No, everything in NEC4 is a transaction. Clause 45.2 says, in exchange for accepting that defect, the contractor has to submit a quotation for either reduced prices or an earlier completion date.
So it's a haggle. I messed up. Fixing it will cost me $5,000. I'll give you a $3,000 discount if we just leave it.
Exactly that. It turns a potential moral failure into a simple commercial decision. Does the client want the wall perfect, or do they want the $3,000? It treats them like business partners.
That idea of business partner seems to bring us to the very structure of the contract. It's like a menu. You have to pick a main option.
Yes, you don't just use NEC4. You use NEC4 option A or C or E. The option you pick defines who carries the financial risk.
So let's run through them.
Right.
If I'm a client and I want absolute cost certainty, what do I pick?
You pick option A, a priced contract. It's basically a fixed price. The contractor says, I'll do it for $10 million. If it costs them 12, that's their problem.
So the risk is almost all on the contractor.
Pretty much, but that can make them defensive, right?
Right. It doesn't really encourage that mutual trust we talked about.
Which is why, for more complex projects, many people use option C or D. These are target contracts.
How do those work?
You agree on a target cost, say, $10 million. If the contractor brings the project in for $9 million, you share that $1 million saving.
So the contractor is actually incentivized to save the client money.
Exactly. And if it costs $11 million, you share the pain. The contractor loses some of their fee, the client pays a bit more, your bank accounts are aligned.
That really seems like the sweet spot for that Clause 10 spirit.
It really is. And then you have the secondary options, the X clauses. These are like software updates for the contract.
The add-ons like Option X10, information modeling.
Yes, for BIM. Building information modeling. Construction is data now, 3D models. X10 provides the little framework for who owns that data.
And there's X22, early contractor involvement. This one seems like a no-brainer.
It addresses a classic problem where an architect designs something that's impossible or wildly expensive to actually build.
And then you have to redesign it.
X22 lets you hire the contractor during the design phase. They can sit with the architect and give practical advice from the start, saving a fortune.
It's all about collaboration. But let's be real, sometimes people just fight. How does it handle disputes?
It has W clauses for that. But notice the language in, say, option W3. It sets up a dispute avoidance board.
Avoidance, not resolution.
The goal is to stop the fight before it gets to court. It's a panel of experts who are involved from the start, acting as circuit breakers for any disagreements.
So we have this compelling system, the spirit of trust, the early warnings, the living program. But why isn't everyone using it?
Well, change is hard. And the NEC4 requires active management. You can't just sign it and put it in a drawer. You have to attend the meetings, update the program. It's high maintenance.
It demands competence.
It does. If you're a disorganized project manager, the NEC4 will expose you very, very quickly. That silence is consent rule alone could destroy you.
So the takeaway for the listener, even if they're not building a skyscraper, seems to be about how we define trust. We think of it as a feeling.
Right. But the NEC4 argues that trust is a process. You build it by sharing bad news early, like in Clause 15, by being transparent about your schedule, by negotiating mistakes fairly.
It's trust through mechanism, not magic.
That's it. And that applies to running a software team or even, managing a family budget. Don't hide the risks. Talk about them early so you can solve them together.
There was one final detail in the definitions I want to leave everyone with. Clause 11.25. It defines a corrupt act.
Standard anti-bribery stuff.
Sure, but contrast that with Clause 45, the one about accepting defects. The contract says, we can handle mistakes, we can negotiate errors, we can deal with the wall being in the wrong place, but a corrupt act, that's instant termination.
It draws a very hard line. The system is resilient to failure, but it's completely intolerant of dishonesty.
And I think that's a profound philosophy. If we ran our companies, our governments, even our relationships on that basis, I could forgive the error, but I cannot forgive the cover-up. How much more would we get done?
I suspect we'd get a lot more built and spend a lot less time and money in court.
I think you're right. That's all for this deep dive. It's a dense text, but hopefully we've shown you the human philosophy beating underneath it all. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and see next time.